Hello, hello. I am so excited to introduce you to your hosts for today's demo. We have the incomparable Raj. He is a principal product manager here at TurboTenant. Raj, would you like to say hi to the people?
Sure, of course. Thanks, Krista. Yeah, I'm a principal product manager at TurboTenant. I've been here for 2.5 years, focusing on residency products. So if you're a TurboTenant user, which I assume you are, things like lease agreements, forms, e-sign, the things once you move a tenant in. I also worked on the premium plan and some of the features in there. I also have a long-term rental in DC. I live in Colorado now, and then I have two short-term rentals here in Denver. I also have, actually with maintenance, I have 6 years of experience working in the home services industry. So I worked for a startup for 4 years, tackling maintenance, and then also for Home Advisor, and now called Angie. So I have some personal experience that I can relate to, and I'll be dropping in a little bit of tidbits as we go. We also have Josh with us here today from Lula.
Hey, everybody. Yep, Josh Madison here. I'm actually the marketing director for Lula. I have been with Lula since the very beginning. So from our early days now to our growth into over 40 different cities. So looking forward to sharing more about Maintenance Plus and Lula. And another tidbit, I am also a TurboTenant landlord myself. So got a unique perspective from both the Lula side as well as the TurboTenant side.
Great to have you here, Josh. Let's get started. We have a lot to cover. Today, what we're going to go through is why we partnered with Lula, how Maintenance Plus works, so how this subscription line works, and how does it work when we send things to Lula, and why this is or isn't a good fit for you. I mean, that's what I assume you're all here for today to learn about, and then we can talk about that as well. Let's, before we dive into why we are partnered with Lula, we want to ask you a question here.
We are big on questions, so you can go ahead and get this. Oh, see if it's rolling. Sometimes Zoom likes to change permissions during a presentation, which is not the best. Here we go. So now you can see that poll. Tell us, what's the most stressful part of being a landlord? We would love to know. Raj, what do you think the most stressful part of being a landlord is for you?
Luckily, I have good tenants. So if I didn't have good tenants, then it would be something about payments for in that arena. But it is honestly maintenance. Also because I have two short-term rentals, like I have to drop everything to help them and maintain that superhost status. So it's maintenance for me.
Makes a lot of sense. All right.
In fact, I was. Oh, sorry. Now, I was going to say that I was skiing last weekend, and I got a call literally on the top of a mountain about an HVAC heat problem. And I was like, I wish this property was eligible for Lula. Unfortunately, it's not. It was not in the Lula area because now I have to stop skiing and deal with this issue and coordinate to deal with this heat problem.
On the mountain, no less. Well, it seems like most people agree with you. So I'm going to go ahead and share these results. 66% of you said maintenance is the biggest stress point of being a landlord. So excited to dive in and learn how we might help mitigate that.
All right. So no surprise, we assumed that this would probably be the answer because we've actually been, as an all-in-one software company, we're trying to make landlording experience simple and easy. And we talk to landlords all the time. We are talking to you all. We're interviewing you, surveying you. You've probably seen all of those things. We want to understand what the biggest problems are for you, and we want to tackle those. So, just in the last year, 4 different surveys, not about maintenance. People brought it up maintenance because they're like, what are you doing for maintenance? Can you make that better? And then so we did specific surveys to understand what those issues were. And then we also did some interviews. Maybe some of you are some of those people that we talked to, or we talked to some subscribers of Lula. And then also before we had that integration, we wanted to understand what they wanted. And here are some quotes from a couple people that reached out to us and responded to us. They just want somebody that can come out anytime, anywhere, and trust that it's done right and priced right. Just want it taken care of, right? I can relate to that. also want finding and coordinating with vendors and the tenant was the biggest pain point. And spending $12 a month. The price of the maintenance plus subscription, by the way, is $149, and so divided by 12, it's about $12 a month. It's a no-brainer for this landlord. I can certainly relate to that. It's texting even with a tenant, and then asking them to like figure out the time, then texting the pro, or maybe the pro doesn't text, so I have to call them and say like, does this time work? No, that one doesn't. Now I have to text the tenant. And why can't they just talk to each other? Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. That itself is worth $149 in one experience, especially when I was at the top of a mountain and I was like, can you just answer your phone? I'm paying a lot to be here skiing today. So anyway, we talk to so many people, so many companies out there that work on maintenance. Like I said, I had personal experience in the maintenance industry, and we wanted to find the right partner to help work on this with, because we've, as I just shared, maintenance is a top pain point. So we wanted to get this right. So we talked to a lot of different partners, and we landed on Lula because of what they had to offer. And we saw that matched with all those responses that we were getting from landlords when we were talking to them. So things like 24/7 troubleshooting and scheduling coordination. So if you have a problem, they're the first ones to respond, and they can text with that tenant, take photos, and the tenant can send them photos. They can work through that, and you'll see what that conversation like that is, conversation example later in our presentation. They also vet the pros and score them. So they have many pros in their network. They only take a small percentage of them. They have them complete competency tests, provide detailed work experience histories, specify pricing parameters, do comprehensive criminal background checks, check for insurance and licensing. And in fact, only about 15% of the pros that want to join Lula's network get in, which is pretty insane. It's a pretty stringent process. It's definitely more checking than I do if I had to call somebody and get somebody out there quick. They have a large proven network. They also offer fair pricing. In fact, they have their experts review the pricing that the pros provide to make sure that it's in line with Lula standards. Our integration with Lula allows for customization. So the way that TurboTenant integrates with Lula, you can set some preferences, you can set approvers. If maybe that's not you, maybe that's somebody else. You can set some thresholds and when you want things sent. And that deep software integration allows us to show a lot of activity and store a lot of information in your TurboTenant account, which is like your hub for managing your property, instead of you having a separate solution that's disconnected. And they're innovators like us. So when we did this integration, we could see that they're always thinking forward how to make this better, how to make the experience more smooth, how to improve the quality, and also how to have that deep integration with our software. So the landlords like you can understand what is going on through those real-time status updates, have those photos and all of that. But you might be wondering, why haven't you heard of Lula? And I'll let Josh talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks, Raj. That was a good overview. So probably the reason you haven't heard of Lula yet is we've traditionally only worked with larger investors and larger property management companies. So think your REITs and property managers who manage 100 doors and above. And that's usually because we integrate with their property management software, and the volume there with the call volume and everything is what makes sense for us. But we've always wanted to get into the landlord sector because we did see it as an opportunity and a place that needs maintenance help just as much as those larger companies do. So with this partnership with TurboTenant, we've been able to actually provide these services to anyone with as low as one door. And through that TurboTenant integration, you will get all the same information and all the same statuses that those larger clients of ours are getting as well. So this is an exclusive partnership. We can't work with smaller landlords outside of TurboTenant just because of this integration, but it's been very powerful so far. And that's probably why you haven't heard of us, but looking to change that as well. And another question that we get, and we got early on in this discovery process, is home warranty the same as Lula? And the answer is no. It is not the same. So home warranties typically include it's somewhat of a backup or an insurance policy for things like major equipment or even some minor cosmetic details, depending on what package you're getting and what type of home and everything. But they typically don't offer any type of troubleshooting. So if there's something that's going on, they're sending somebody out, and it doesn't cover your normal wear and tear. It focuses solely on appliances, systems, maybe sometimes your water lines, your HVAC, hot water heater, everything like that. Typically has a deductible similar to an insurance policy, and there's oftentimes monthly costs. So that is vastly different from what Lula offers. Home warranty can be an extremely powerful tool, especially in certain homes, depending on the specifics, but landlords can and do use both. And the reason Lula is different is there's still going to be the in-between maintenance. The faucet might leak. You're going to need somebody to do that. But at the same time, kind of depending on your settings, which Roz will probably get into at some point during this, you actually send it to us for the purpose of troubleshooting that I mentioned earlier. It goes through a process of trying to eliminate that work order and coach the resident through resolving it themselves, which saves money entirely, which is what we're all here to do. So, home warranty, they can be used together, but Lula is mostly a complement to what that already offers.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Now let's talk about how it works. So we'll give you a little bit of a view into it. Let me just first describe it, and then I'll show you guys some things along the way. So the first thing you got to do to get these features is you got to subscribe to Maintenance Plus. And then when you do that, in that process of subscribing, you're going to set some preferences, including who are the approvers, and you can have a primary approver, and that can be you, or it could actually be somebody else. You can also have a backup approver in case that person's not available. You can set if you want to send all requests to Lula or just choose which ones. And then you can also set a spending limit. You or your tenant submit a maintenance request on TurboTenant. So on the right-hand side, we have this image of what the intake request form is on TurboTenant. In case you know, I noticed in that previous survey that not everybody uses TurboTenant to manage their maintenance. But if you did this part of the features, right, requesting maintenance and managing that is included in the TurboTenant software. Tenants can upload pictures, put in description, and then you can track it there. And then if you're a Maintenance Plus subscriber, then you can send those things to Lula based on your settings. So you can have it automatically sent to Lula, or you can choose when it does that. And then you have, when it's sent to Lula, they troubleshoot it via SMS. And if a pro is needed, a Lula will continue and send out a pro. If a pro isn't needed, that's awesome. That's magic. That means they've saved you money right there. And they saved you time because you didn't have to troubleshoot it yourself. Also, you may not be knowledgeable in some of these areas, right? They have Lula experts, maintenance experts that can try to solve that problem remotely. So let's look at an example of that. So here's a real conversation that happened in December when we launched this. I think it happened like a day or a couple of days after we launched Lula, and somebody subscribed and already sent over a request. This person had a garbage disposal problem, so you don't have to read all the text here. I'll just give you a summary. They're telling them about the reset button, using the wrench that you put at the bottom. They said that it didn't work. So Lula sent out a YouTube video, and they're like, let's try this specifically. Make sure you're doing the right thing. There can also be photos. In this particular example, there were not photos shared, but that was great. And the tenant actually didn't respond. Oftentimes, the tenant will just like ghost you because now it's fixed. And so Lula's following up to check in to make sure that it's taken care of. And I believe it was in this circumstance. So that's awesome. That's money saved. A pro didn't have to go out to just reset something or to turn that wrench at the bottom of the garbage tools to get it working. So what if that doesn't happen and a pro does need to go out and fix it. So Lula matches the best pro for that particular job. If they think it's an electrician, then they'll send out an electrician, or if they think a handyman can take care of it, then they'll do that. They're also optimizing for time. So that text message conversation, usually they're reaching out within like 10 minutes of that submission, and then they're trying to dispatch a pro as quickly as possible to get out there and solve the issue. The pro then assesses if it's going to exceed your spending limit. So this is something that you set when you onboard to Maintenance Plus, and it's kind of like we're finding when we're talking to some landlords that they're a little confused by this. It's basically like the don't bother me if below this amount. So you can set it to be $500, and you can say anything below that, Lula, take care of it, troubleshoot it, and then if you can't troubleshoot it, send it to a pro. And if the pro can get it done under $500 or $300 or $1,000, it's different for everybody. You can set it whatever you want. Then Lula will just take care of it, and then you'll be billed later. Or you can set that, to a threshold that you're more comfortable with, and maybe that's something that maybe that's $300, and that every time it exceeds $300, the pro will create a quote, and you can see an example quote here where it'll have the tasks that need to be done and how much it's priced, and then you can approve and reject sometimes the pieces of it. So maybe it's offering, in this particular example, I guess, a replacement oven and some other things, and you can approve and reject. And they'll reach out again to your approvers that you added at the beginning. So that could be you, that could be somebody else. And if you're not available, there's a backup. They want to get this done on site quickly as possible. If not, then the pro will have to leave, and then they'll come back and reschedule once they get in touch with you to give that approval. Then, assuming the pro completes the work, the Lula experts review the notes and the photos that the pro has taken, the before and after photos, and they're checking to see if it meets their standards. Like, for example, like a P-trap or something like that. They want to make sure that they did that right to code, or did they use like a flex hose that doesn't meet the standards? So they want to, they check those things, and then they might send the pro back out there if it doesn't, which is awesome. And then, skipped ahead there. And they're also checking for fairness and pricing. Then you get those before, after photos, pro notes, and invoice in TurboTenant, and then you'll just be automatically charged to your credit card on file. So pretty quick process. Now I'm going to show you what that looks like in TurboTenant. So let me switch over to that real quick. All right. Here we go. All right, so what we're looking at right now, I assume you guys can see this, it's the maintenance index page. So it's the page where we store all of the maintenance requests for your account. I know that some of you guys aren't familiar with it because you're not using it. But again, this part of like organizing your maintenance is all included in TurboTenant for free. You don't have to be a premium member or a Maintenance Plus subscriber for this. Your tenants can log maintenance requests. You could put notes and all of that. So in this particular account, you can see several requests. It looks like they're a Lula subscriber, and some of them have been sent to Lula and some of them haven't. So let's click into one that hasn't been sent to Lula first. So in this particular request, looks like there was a shower plumbing leak. It was requested by the tenant at this date, and in this view, the landlord is looking at this, and they can decide what to do. They can modify the status. If they want, they can send a work order to a pro that they already work with or that they know, and it'll just send all of this information to them, including any photos. If the tenant uploaded any photos, you can add a note. If you're subscribed to Maintenance Plus, then you have the option, then this button shows up here and says send to Lula. If this button is showing, that means this landlord decided that they wanted to choose which requests go to Lula. They're not going to be auto sent for this landlord. So we can pretend that the landlord went ahead and sent that to Lula. Click that button. Let's look at a different request that has some more activity behind it. So it's been sent and what happened with that particular request. There we go. It's just a little slow. Okay. Let's look at this one. Heat not working. So that's, like I said, I literally have this problem on Sunday. So, and that's a scary one in the winter, right? You really got to jump on top of that. So this tenant actually submitted some photos, which is awesome. It says that, I guess this is a Nest thermostat, and it's saying that they set it to 70, but it's at 55 degrees and it's not increasing. And then they even provide an infrared thermometer evidence of what the temperature was. That's awesome. And so this was sent to Lula. They started troubleshooting the request within 10 minutes. That's really great. And then I guess they weren't able to solve the issue remotely. And so they need to schedule an appointment and have a pro come out. And you can see all of this in your activity feed, what's going on. So this is happening live. If you were monitoring, you could see all of the stats come in as it's happening. They schedule an appointment and a pro is dispatched. Then after the pro worked on it and they resolved it, they add some notes and that's presented to you in your account. And then there's some images there as well for you to see what was done. Then when the invoice is ready, so when Lula has checked it, checked the quality of the work and the photos and pricing and all of that, then you get an invoice, and you can even download that invoice. We can show you what that looks like. It's you can see the line items of what was charged, the parts, the labor, all of that, and then the notes again here, and then the before and after photos, which is really cool. Much more sophisticated than what I get when I work with the people that I normally do. And then my computer's struggling here. All right, here we go. And then after that, you can also see the receipt because TurboTenant will just bill you in the background, and that's there and available for you to look at, download. If you ever need those for your records, it's always going to be stored there. All right, let me hop back over to my presentation. Cool. So to just review what we showed you, you subscribe and set preferences. You submit a maintenance request on TurboTenant, or your tenant does. It's sent to Lula according to your preferences. Lula then troubleshoots it, which could be the end, and that's awesome. They then, if that's not the end and the pro has to go out, they'll coordinate with the tenant and find a good time and dispatch them at the appropriate time. And then you can review the quote as if needed, or your approvers or your backup approver. And then they get the work done. The experts are reviewing the work, and then you pay for it. All of the information is then stored in your account for you to access whenever you like. So now that we've shown you kind of how it works, is it a good fit for you? I think it may not be for you if you're a do-it-yourself landlord and are reachable all the time. There was a time when I first became a landlord when I was like that. The first property that we had, I was in between jobs. I wanted to do everything myself and get the satisfaction of doing that, so it wouldn't have been a good fit for me then. Maybe you already have a property manager, and if you do, you know that you're paying the 7 to 15% per month to have that property manager work with you, and this is one of the things that they take care of. So Lula's probably not a good fit. So this one's interesting. When we were doing those interviews with landlords and doing the surveys, everybody was telling us about guys. They have a guy for plumbing or HVAC or handyman. So what we found is that most people do have somebody for something, but they don't have somebody for everything. And that person may not always be available when you need them to be. So they have other jobs to do, or they may not be, that might not be their specialty. So having this backup of Lula could be of interest if you don't have guys for all sorts of categories and you're at the top of their list. If you only go with the lowest price, so if like with anything, there's people that are going to be charging the lowest price. There's the highest, and there's something in between. I would say Lula, in my experience, looks like they're definitely somewhere in between. Um, if you think about how you get the lowest price, usually they're cutting corners in some way. They're not licensed. Maybe they're not insured. Maybe you're not asking those questions. Maybe they're using cheaper parts. Maybe they're just getting in the industry and they don't have the experience. Again, Lula is only accepting 15% of the pros that want to be part of Lula, which is insane. They have a very stringent process. Or it may not be for you if you want to be involved in all the details and just every step of the process. But that's not the beauty really of Lula, right? So you have multi-family managed buildings. So in some of these buildings, they have requirements of who you work with, what pros you work with, and maybe they have a certain electrician, plumbing. They don't want anybody to touch any of the plumbing systems in the building. So you need to work with their pros. That's something that you should investigate and check if you do have a multi-family building, a unit in there. So it could be for you if, you have limited bandwidth. You're doing a lot of things and you're looking to grow and expand, and you don't want to be the first responder all the time. And maybe you don't have the responsive guys, or just not enough. You aren't nearby or often away. Maybe you travel a lot, or you're a remote landlord, like my property in DC. I'm remote with that one. And you opt for quality and value. So you want good work done, the right type of pro and the right price. And if you're looking to scale, like you don't want to be held back just because of the maintenance. And being here at this webinar and being a TurboTenant user, I assume you're trying to avoid property managers. And you're trying to do things yourself, but in a scalable, reliable way, and make it work for you, and save on those costs. And maintenance plus just, I think, makes sense from that perspective. But we want to know at this point if it does work for you.
Yeah.
Like I said, we talked to landlords before, and we try to find the best fit. So we're really curious and we'll want your feedback to understand if we found the right partner.
Pretty split in the poll so far, but feel free to chime in. We're getting some great questions. Just want to reiterate, I'm taking notes of those so that we can go through them at the end. Eugene and Josh have been kind enough to fire some answers off, but don't you worry, keep your questions coming. We want to chat through everything you're thinking about. All right, and I'll give you about 10 more seconds. Currently, it's looking like quite the split. And a lot of people wondering, like they're not quite sure. Maybe this is for them, maybe it's not. So again, if you have questions, if there are things that you want to know about before you jump in with both feet, let us know. This is about how it's shaken for everybody. Got a healthy percentage of people who are completely on board, people who need some more information, and then some no's. Maybe that's because we're not in your area yet. Again, I've dropped the waitlist in the chat. Happy to do it again. If you want Lula to exist where you are, where your rentals are, we would love to know about it. All right. Looking good. I'll dive back.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We'll drive right back into the presentation. Yeah. So we're seeing that what 16% of the respondents say yes, and then basically everybody else says I'm not sure. So yeah, again, like if you're not sure, put a question in the chat. We want to know. Like we want to know what's missing in this program or how we can make it better. And then we'll have some links that we'll share as well. And I'll even give out my email because I really want to hear from you guys and understand what we could do. So if you are interested and or when you are interested in signing up, how do you do that? First of all, you have to, in order to be eligible, you have to have at least one property in a Lula covered area. And I think it sounds like in the chat, my colleagues here have sent out a link for you all to check that. And just so you know, Lula is expanding pretty quickly. And by you indicating on the wait list that you're interested, that goes into how they pick the next markets to expand into. And you go into maintenance in the side nav bar of your account. And you can, and in that area, if you're eligible, there'll be a button for you to click to learn more about Lula and to sign up. Then you choose your Maintenance Plus preferences. And we then you send over the request to Lula yourself, or that can be auto sent. By the way, we saw that of all those subscribers so far, about half are sending them themselves, and about half are sending everything. So they don't screen them, and then Lula takes care of it. And then you watch out for status updates. Like, it's pretty cool to just stand back and just see the things getting taken care of without you having to be involved in all of it. All right, some other things to know. I'll let Josh take it over from here for the next couple of slides.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I did see that I wanted to mention regarding the guys. So yeah, everybody's got guys, and that's something that we hear quite often. But as Raj mentioned, you don't have guys for everything. And with the manual send, if you've got your handyman that you send mostly everything to, you can still continue to send to him through TurboTenant, but then send everything else to Lula. But even then, those guys often do not do the troubleshooting piece, which can be a huge cost savings opportunity for you. I'm sure there's a lot of people in here who have had the experience of tenant is having issues with maybe half the power in the home is out. You say, hey, have you changed out the breaker or tried flipping the breaker on and off? And they say yes. You get out there, the electrician, sure enough, it was the breaker. And then you've got a bill for $125 or whatever that might have been. And all they went and did was turn that breaker off, when the tenant surely could have been able to get that themselves with some of the proper coaching. And oftentimes your guys, what they're doing is they're going out and they're going to fix it. They're going out to do the work. That's not on them, but they're usually not doing that troubleshooting at first, because to be honest, that kind of hurts their bottom line. But that is in our best interest, because we're trying to save you money and get that work across the finish line, whether it's with an invoice or not. But going on to the next slide here, Raj. You can get a second opinion after a pro comes out. So this is another big request, especially on a larger job that has maybe been estimated. Maybe you have some water damage, or you need a second quote for a valve replacement, tile replacement, something like that. We can actually get you that second opinion free of charge from a separate pro entirely. So you're getting an apples to apples quote without having to submit to multiple contractors. You're just able to do that by request through one contractor, which is in essence Lula. How much does it really cost? So you saw the $149 for Maintenance Plus, but a lot of people are curious about the actual job-to-job prices. We offer over 40 different professional trades. So it is difficult to say this job, this task is going to cost this amount of money, but this is kind of where that not to exceed or that maintenance spending limit comes into play. So if you've got a $300 maintenance limit, you know you're never going to get a bill that is over that amount. And as you see here, at least for handyman jobs, 75% of all handyman jobs come below that not to exceed limit. And of those, that average bill is $186. So 75% of the time, and I'll add that handyman is our most requested service. So most jobs actually funnel through that category because they can do light plumbing, they can do light electrical, they can paint, they can drywall. A lot of those easy fixes are funneled through the handyman, and they don't actually send out if not needed. Your running toilet isn't going to go to an expensive licensed plumber or something like that. But 75% of the time, those are actually coming in under that not to exceed limit, meaning you didn't have to touch it at all. It's been troubleshooted with the tenant, scheduled, dispatched, work done. You've got the notes, pictures, invoice, everything uploaded back into TurboTenant for you. And you just got to cut down on all of that additional time. And someone asked what the not to exceed is. It is that maintenance spending limit, and you actually set it in TurboTenant. So if you want yours to be higher so you can be completely hands-off, you can do that. And know that our team is always vetting every single contractor that comes in their pricing, but also quality checking that pricing as well to make sure that it is not outside of bounds of, what's normal for that type of task. So fees that we've got mentioned here. So there's an occasional diagnosis fee, or perhaps we've got something scheduled and the tenant doesn't show up. Obviously, contractors still expect to be paid, but those are between $75 and $99, just depending, is this a licensed professional or is this a handyman, anything like that. But beyond that, there are not any extra fees typically. It's just the maintenance plus on the front end, and then the cost of service. There's no extra fees built in or anything like that. And of course, if you have any questions about a job, I did see somebody ask about quality concerns or anything like that. So first of all, like I said, all of these pros, as we call them in our Lula ecosystem, they are required to maintain quality standards. So that pro score, it consists of their pricing. So the more affordable they are, the more it helps their pricing. Their reviews from the tenants, their rate of, showing up on time, and what all that combines into a score. And then it's also affected by the quality. So if any of those things fall out of bounds, they're removed from the platform, so they're not doing work. So you can trust that the contractors that are going on your property are professional, they're qualified, and they're equipped to do the work. Now, of course, it's still maintenance. Things are still going to go wrong. That faucet that was fixed might start leaking again 2 weeks later. But you are covered by Lula's warranty, so you're not trying to hunt down the handyman who went and fixed it. You let Lula know and we make it right. So there's 30-day warranty on all work. And then for your larger jobs, your replacements, your foundations, roof, or anything like that, you're typically seeing anywhere from 1 year labor, 5-year equipment, all the way up to 10 to 20-year warranty. So you are covered in every single instance, and it's one contact versus trying to hunt down, the person who may have done a poor job. And then as far as if you've got a quality dispute or anything like that, hopefully our QA team who checked the job before sending the invoice, they were able to flag anything and make things right before it gets to you. But if you get to a point and you aren't satisfied, same concept. You let Lula know and it would be covered under the warranty, and we would be able to get that other pro out there or get somebody else out there at no cost to you. So we're always here to try and make things right. So this is a really exciting program. Mention that we mostly work with some of the larger investors, those institutional real estate investment trusts, and then also your larger property managers. With that, we actually have partnerships with a lot of the major manufacturers across the country, and that has allowed us to get extremely affordable rates on equipment and provide you with that buying power. So you are actually tapping into the buying power of the REITs, those larger property managers who might have thousands and thousands of work orders per year. You're essentially tapping into that and getting that same pricing. And we actually have a catalog that you can go through. So if you need any type of appliance, HVAC, water heater, if you've got a system that you need to be replaced, you can actually just go check the pricing, and that's what the price is. So it is extremely competitive, extremely affordable, and in most cases, it's probably not going to get beat by maybe your mom and pop vendor. So, and that's just due to that buying power. And I did see someone asked if those are used. They are not used appliances. They are all new. So it is brand new GE appliances, and we've got a range from white, black, stainless, with sort of a good and a best option as well. So you can choose more affordable, you can choose a better, but a wide range of flat price options that you can choose from.
Yeah, I actually had to get my air conditioning replaced on my unit in DC, and then also my furnace for the Airbnb here. This was before the Lula partnership, and I have guys in each of those places, and I thought I had a really good deal, and I checked their flat rate pricing, and I was like, it's even better, and it's even better brand, Carrier and Goodman. And I was like, I wish I had Lula. I would have saved money and had a better equipment. All right, so cool. So what's next? If you still have questions, let us know. So we're going to take questions now, but put them in the chat and we're going to pick from them. But if you're not able to get them answered, reach out to support at TurboTenant, you can also schedule a call. So we have some people, we don't normally do this at TurboTenant, but we have an ability for you to call and speak to somebody about it, and we can share a link for you to do that in the chat. You can then sign up in the maintenance area of your account. If you are ready, you just go there, and if you're eligible, there'll be promotions there. And if you can't find it for some reason, reach out. And if it's not what you're looking for, let me know. Although I'm a product manager and I work on the tech side, this is something that we've worked really hard on, and we want to find the right fit. We just want to know how we can make it better. So I'm giving out my email for you to do that. That being said, we're open to take questions now.
Beautiful. We have quite a few. So going to do our best to get to everything. But like Raj said, if we don't hit your question or if you think of something else, please feel free to reach out. Excuse me. First question here. How long has Lula been in business?
Great question. Lula was founded in 2016, and we actually started out as a home services platform for your homeowners. What we quickly realized that most of our clients that were submitting work through our app were DIY landlords submitting for their properties. We started to move into property management in 2019, getting funded by a large multifamily company in the Kansas City area. And ever since then, we have focused on rental properties and property management. So for the last 4 or 5 years, really has kind of been our coming into the rental space.
Beautiful. All right, we've definitely gotten a flurry of questions about eligibility and which areas are covered or not. So I'm curious, Josh, if you could tell us how Lula will decide where they go next.
Another great question. So we typically go where the most interest is. So like Raj mentioned, go ahead and let us know because that helps us determine. We typically have our quarter mapped out. So we've got coming up here shortly, Cleveland, Akron, Salt Lake, Seattle. And then I saw a lot of people asking about California and DC area. I would expect those in Q2, Q3 as well, with a flurry of other markets. So really just going where the clients are. And Michelle, we're already in North Carolina. But yes, I hope that answers everybody's questions. We're doing our best to expand everywhere. Probably similar to everyone remembers when Uber was expanding, you kind of go into different markets where there's going to be volume, and you have to have they had to have the drivers to support the riders. Well, similar to us, we have to have the contractors to support the landlords, the property managers. So we are looking to grow quickly, but we also need your help.
Beautiful. All right, and I dropped that wait list into the chat, so if you checked out the list of eligible zip codes, you didn't find yours on there, fill in your information. We'd love to know where you are so we can get there too. New question. Naomi's wondering, if they reject the quote, will Lula find someone else to handle the job, or will it only be one quote that's provided per request?
Great question. We will get you a second quote. Now, if you come to us with, you might already have a quote from your guy. You can provide us with that quote, and we can look to beat it as well. But we can get you a second quote because we've already have the scope identified. We can go out and get a free quote from another contractor, apples to apples.
Beautiful. We've gotten this question in a couple forms, and it's basically that. Does Lula help with rehab projects or rehab contractors, or is it strictly for rentals?
We can also handle your turnovers. So if you create those in TurboTenant, you can assign them to us just like any other maintenance request, and we can handle turnovers and make readies as well.
There we go. Brandon is curious, how do these systems operate with contractors who prefer Zelle payments, cash, Venmo, etc.?
So our contractors, we handle all through our system. Every contractor in Lula's network has to be a part of our platform, and they actually have to have direct deposit set up. We do not handle any payments through Cash App, Zelle, Venmo, or anything like that. So if that's the only payment that someone accepts, they wouldn't be a good fit for the Lula platform.
All right. Starla wants to know, is there a service call fee charged regardless if items can be fixed?
That's another fantastic question. It depends on the job. Obviously, if a plumber goes out and they diagnose what's going on, they're expecting to be paid. Now, a handyman who goes out and they get out there and it's going to be over the limit and they didn't do any work, there wouldn't be a fee on something like that. But for a licensed tradesman who goes out and does a diagnosis, then yes, there is a diagnosis fee. And it would be in that $75 to $99 range that I'd mentioned before. So yes, there are occasional diagnosis fees, but we also do free quotes for jobs where the scope is identified. So if you know that a main line needs to be replaced, we can get you a free quote for that main line replacement.
Beautiful. All right. Marquita wants to know, what is the response time frame? I'm assuming from when maybe a tenant puts in a request. When should they expect to hear back?
Yeah. So if you've got it set up to auto-assign to Lula, when a tenant submits a work order, they are hearing from us within 15 minutes of that. So we use a combination of AI and maintenance experts to actually triage that job to make sure, one, we understand what category it is, but then we move into the troubleshooting phase. So if we're unable to troubleshoot it, we get the tenant's availability and it sends out to our network. And a normal job is scheduled within 4 hours. And that's including everything from when they submit to when the troubleshooting happens, when it's sent out to the network. And you actually see all that in TurboTenant as well. Now, work order is completed, obviously depends on the type of job, but typically within 4 business days, because obviously a lot depends on when the tenant might be available for us to go out.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Robin is curious, how is the final work reviewed? By who? And who pays for it?
That's a good question. So it is part of the Lula process. We've got a team of quality assurance who manually reviews every single job to make sure we've got notes explaining what was wrong and what was done, as well as before and after pictures showing the quality of the work. If anything at all looks off, or if the pricing looks out of bounds, we're actually handling those conversations with the contractor on your behalf before we ever even send you an invoice. So in TurboTenant, you might see that the work is resolved, but if that invoice isn't uploaded, that's because we're actually in that QA process, making sure that if we don't have the pictures, we're getting them. If we don't have the quality, we're making them go back and fix it. All that is done on your behalf before you ever receive an invoice.
Love it. Victoria wants to know, how does the 1099 form get handled by Lula?
So with the individual contractors, they are, in a way, contractors of Lula's, not of yours at that point. So if we've got 10 contractors who do work on your property over the next year, and again, that's very unlikely, but if you have a high number of properties, you might have 10 different contractors out at any point. We would be handling those 1099s. So we send out those 10 1099s for those contractors. And then depending on how much is spent throughout the year, you are just sending the one 1099 to Lula. And Raj, you might be able to answer if there is a function in TurboTenant that helps track that, or if that's something users or landlords have to do on their own.
Yeah, right now we aren't handling that specific case, but if there is interest in that, we can do it. So I mean, we just started this partnership, so there's still things that we can improve upon. So yeah, let us know. That's a great call.
Beautiful. Alrighty, Allie wants to know, who picks the contractors?
So every contractor goes through the same vetting process to determine how qualified they are for the work. So everyone who's gotten through that process is qualified, experienced, and ready to work. And it actually sends out to the network based on proximity, pricing, basically that vendor score we talked about. So the person with the highest vendor score is going to see the work first. We're not hand selecting the contractor each job. It's just sending out to the network. So when a handyman claims it, the tenant and TurboTenant are both notified of that. So it's not necessarily a hand selected per job, but all of these have been vetted in the same qualifying manner.
Wonderful. On a similar note, Derek wants to know if you can have a preferred contractor list for Lula to call first.
We do not currently have that set up to do automatically with TurboTenant. But if you ever have, repeat work and you say, I want the same contractor who came out the last 2 times, we can certainly try to do that. But also knowing if he's unavailable, we want to get someone out there to fix that for the tenant as fast as possible.
Beautiful. Alrighty. Is the subscription one fee or is it a per building per year fee?
That is one fee per year. The $149 covers all properties. Is that correct, Raj?
That is, sorry, I was on mute. Yes, it's right now. It's a pretty big. It's a really good deal. It's $149 if it's one, or if it's 100. I think we have somebody right now that has 54 or something. I think when I checked last, and it's the same price.
There we go. All right. Is there a surcharge on vendor prices? For example, like a 10% markup or something like that, apart from the annual recurring fee?
We make our money on the contractor side. So they are basically signing up for a free referral service. They get jobs delivered to them in this partnership. So we get a cut of what they make of the completed job. So the pricing that you see, that is a total all-in price. It's not going to be invoice plus Lula's X percent. It is all part of that invoice already.
Fantastic. That knocks out a very similar question about Lula getting paid fees by the contractor to be a part of the network. So it sounds like, yep, that's where the money is made. Beautiful. All right. Do you have any examples of ease of use for the tenants? I'm curious how to increase buy-in for this process, especially with some of my older tenants.
Yes, absolutely. There's sometimes some early friction, particularly with older tenants who might not be used to technology, but we don't have it 100% automated for that reason. So in most cases, tenants want to text. It's more useful. They're working. They don't want to get a call in the middle of their day and ask a bunch of questions, because even then they wouldn't be able to troubleshoot something in that moment anyway. But the text is helpful. It is one of the most viewed and appropriate norms to actually get messages across quickly. But in the event that someone isn't responding to a text message, we are calling them. And at that point, if there's someone elderly who doesn't know how to troubleshoot or anything like that, we're walking them through the process over the phone and then eventually scheduling and sending somebody out. So it does not limit based on someone's ability to text or adapt to technology.
Awesome. Very accessible to everyone, which I love. By Lula setting an appointment with the tenant to complete a repair, does that satisfy giving the tenant a notice to enter, or does the landlord still need to send one to be compliant?
I think that depends on your lease agreement, and what's written in your lease agreement and what you need to do, what's stipulated there.
And also, in our experience, again, you would need to go to the lease agreement, but the tenants are scheduling times to meet us on site. So I would say that is satisfying any, approval, whether it's written or verbal. They are agreeing to meet on site versus you reaching out and saying someone is going to be here in 24 hours. It is a little bit different situation for maintenance that they are scheduling. But again, refer to your lease agreement and your local laws.
All right. Always go back to the local laws when in doubt. But I will say, before we jump to the next question, I think that you're empowering your tenant to feel confident about who's coming in. It's not like you're springing something upon them. So it's more something that they're helping to facilitate, less like a random inspection. But still, go back to your laws and your lease. That's the best way to go forward. That said, Naomi asked, as long as Lula is already on the account, is it true that I can continue to add buildings and houses and these units will receive the service, or is there a cap/limit?
There is no cap or limit, and when you add that property to your TurboTenant account, if it's in an eligible zip code, you will have the ability to send to Lula. We have already done the integration and the work for you, so you'll see that button if it's eligible to send to Lula. And if it's not, then it won't be sent to Lula.
There we go. All right. Do you anticipate raising the price anytime soon as you add more states and cities to your service?
We don't have anything on the books to raise price right now, but I'm not going to say that it's not a possibility. And yeah, right now we're a flat rate for everybody, no matter how many rentals, but that could change as well. But nothing definitive.
Beautiful. All right. I know we are short on time. There are some questions I have not been able to hit, but I want to try and squeeze this one in. Can we cancel the service within a year if we decide we don't like it?
Yes, you can decide not to renew at any time. So that way, the following year, the subscription won't renew, and that'll stop. But if you're not happy in the middle, because of some experience that you've had with Lula, like, reach out to us. We want to know. And I'm sure Lula wants to make it right. We want to make it right. We want to understand the situation. And yeah, so let us know.
Yeah, well said. Like I said, I apologize. I know there's still some questions in the chat and in the Q&A that I could not get to, but I don't want to keep everybody from their lunch. So please follow up with support@turbotenant.com. You can also schedule a call to chat with our wonderful CX team about Lula and Maintenance Plus. You can also reach out to Raj, and he will have the answers you're looking for or know how to track them down. Raj, Eugene, Josh, thank you so much for being here and for lending your expertise. It has been wonderful. Everyone else, I appreciate you being here as well. We will follow up with a recording of this presentation within 2 business days, so keep an eye on your emails. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.